Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of 1990's Represent. On this episode, we're taking a look at Terminator 2. We're still in 1991. Different glasses for this video because I ended up actually leaving my other glasses at my friend's house after we watched this 4K Blu-ray version of Terminator 2. Picked this up. I don't even own a 4K player. I just mostly did it to get the digital copy as well as the normal Blu-ray. But my friend has a 4K player plus a 4K TV, so we watched it over there. I'll pick my glasses up at some other point, like in a day or two. But Terminator 2, one of my favorite films of all time. One of the films, like very few films, I consider to be like perfect in pretty much every way. It's just incredible. The visual effects still hold up. The visual effects still look amazing. So we're going to break down the movie in this video, and then after I do the breakdown, we go through all like the plot, the kind of like notes I've taken. We're going to switch this around, and when I was in LA earlier last year and partly the year before, I went to a couple of different Terminator 2 shooting locations. So I've got screenshots for the movie as well as more current photos of those areas as well. But we're going to take a look at our notes here on this. Got some very interesting notes about this film. So Terminator 2 first released July 3rd, 1991. Apparently James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger wanted to do the sequel sooner, but let me see here. The rights were kind of tied up with, I think it's called Hemdale Film Corporation, and then they eventually convinced Carloco Productions or Pictures, same people who did Total Recall, which we did in last cycle of 1990, a few episodes back. They picked up the rights to the Terminator series, which then allowed James Cameron and Arnold Schwarzenegger to start the sequel. They eventually got the rights so late in, like they knew they wanted to do a 1991 release, so they only had about 7 weeks to write the movie, and that's just insane because I think the writing in this movie is like pretty much is perfect. Like there's not a lot of like wasted dialogue. It all kind of is like the writing in this movie. I think it's probably, in my opinion, James Cameron's like best film overall, and also his best writing. Co-wrote it with William Wisher. If you see the film, he has a cameo in the film. But when the Terminator gets thrown through a window in the mall, like in the clothing store, one of the guys with like a just like an old school kind of like camera is taking pictures of him, and that's the co-writer of the film. So they only had 7 weeks to write this movie. At the time, it was the most expensive film ever made. With a budget between $94 and $102 million. Ended up being like the highest grossing movie that year. Visual effects in this movie are just groundbreaking. You have practical effects. You have very early CGI. You have amazing makeup effects and Terminator effects created by Stan Winston. I think some of Stan Winston's best work as well. And it just looks incredible. I remember it cleaning up fairly well at the 1992 Academy Awards. Like it pretty much took all the kind of like the technical awards that year, like visual effects. I forget exactly what those were, but I think it's probably like makeup, visual effects, because the makeup for like Schwarzenegger's makeup when he's like got the battle damage on him, it just looks awesome. I collected back when this movie came out. Before I even saw the movie, I would be buying these packs of, I don't know who made them, if it was Topps or someone else, but they were Terminator 2 trading cards for the movie. And the funny thing about these cards is there are scenes and like shots in the cards that are on the cards that are not in the theatrical cut of this film. So like they got their hands on like an early cut of the movie, and there's a bunch of scenes where like the first time I saw the movie, I was like, well, where is this scene? Where is this shot? And those actually show up in the director's cut and the like extended director's cuts. I've seen the director's cuts and the like extended director's cut, and I think James Cameron has done a thing where he said basically his theatrical cuts of films are what he considers to be the director's cuts. with the Terminator 2 director's cut, there's some extra scenes that add a little bit of context, but it doesn't really enhance the story at all. It doesn't really enhance the movie. They're cool extra scenes, but they don't actually like amount to much. The card I remember having the most is in the director's cut. There's a scene early in the film, and it's one of Sarah Connor's dreams. In the director's cut, she has two dreams. She has the one that you know from the movie where like the bomb gets dropped in L.A. and then like the whole like playground gets like disintegrated. That's in the theatrical cut, as well as the other cuts of the movie. But there's another dream where she's in the kind of mental hospital, and she gets visited by Kyle Reese. Michael Biehn makes a cameo in the director's cut of the movie. And he's kind of dressed as he was in the first film, where he's got like the trench coat on and stuff like that. And basically, he's there to kind of remind Sarah that, you know, like John is in danger, like we need to like protect him and all this stuff. That kind of stuff does come across in the theatrical cut, so I see why they got rid of that scene. There's a scene in the director's cut where they reprogram the Terminator's chip so it can actually, so it can actually start learning. In the theatrical version, they basically just say, the more I'm around humans, the more I learn. So that kind of gets around that scene. That scene, though, is cool because it basically, John and Sarah, like Sarah wants to destroy the chip, and John is like, no, don't do it. You should start listening to my ideas. If I'm supposed to be this great leader, you should start listening to these ideas that I have. So just the cool thing with those trading cards, there's a bunch of scenes in those cards and parts of those cards that you don't see in the theatrical cut. The other one is toward the end of the film when the T-1000, it puts its hand on a guardrail and its hand turns black and yellow like the kind of like warning tape. And that is supposed to indicate that the T-1000 is starting to become weakened and is starting to glitch out. The other card that had that on there was there's a scene where John is approached by the T-1000 disguised as Sarah, and then the real Sarah. And the way he tells the difference in the director's cut is he looks down at Sarah's feet and sees that they're like matching. They're like basically, they look like they're melting into the ground basically, or they are at the very least taking on the pattern of like the kind of grating that the T-1000 is walking on. So that's a card that was in there as well. The comic book adaptation of the movie, which I read before seeing the movie, I had the black and white edition from Marvel, and I think there was like, it was like a 4-part mini series, and I think they did them in 4 issues. I had like, I guess I would call it a trade paperback, but it was like really just like almost like really flimsy. Like it wasn't really like the card stock was not proper, like what you get on normal trade paperbacks. But there was a bunch of scenes in there as well where I think Marvel got a hold of the director's cut, because there's another scene in that, I think in the director's cut, where 2 of the kind of like mental hospital guards are trying to give Sarah her medication and she's refusing, so they like taser her and they like beat her up. So there's like scenes like that. So I remember reading that comic. Like that comic, if I even still have it, is probably in horrible shape because I just read it so much. Let's see what we have here. There's some just great editing and great like shot like transitioning between in these films. So there's a scene where Sarah's giving a video interview to Dr. Silverman, and she's talking about where she's kind of trying to game the system. She's now saying, "Oh, I don't think these Terminators exist. There's no evidence of these things, and if there was evidence, they would have found something. They never found like the other chip." And then he's like, well, you don't think they covered it up, like you said before? He's like, no, like, why would they cover it up? And then it cuts right to Miles Dyson and the Cyberdyne like office, like working on the chip. So just like really good editing. Another really cool thing I liked about this movie is the kind of this is probably one of the earlier films where I saw where the police were disguised, like basically like the villain is disguised as a police officer pretty much the entire movie, unless he's imitating someone else. So just a cool kind of juxtaposition of like the villain is the police in this situation. So one quick story about this movie that I just absolutely love is I saw this on a Friday. Didn't see it in theaters. I eventually seen it in the theaters twice since because there's a local theater that did a midnight showing of it. I want to say like 4, maybe 5 years ago, and a couple years ago they showed it again. So I went to both of those. But the very first time I saw this was in December of 1991 when it was released on VHS. And the reason I have a really fond memory of this is day before we had our like elementary school like Christmas like winter play or whatever it was. So we did the play. We went home. That night and into the next morning was a huge snowstorm. So school got canceled. So the plan that day, had we gone to school, was I was going to go to school. My parents were going to go by the grocery store and go to the video department, rent Terminator 2 for us for that weekend, and we would just watch it during that weekend. With the snow day, they were able to get it early, and I watched it like 3 times that weekend. Like basically like watched it like very early in the morning, watch it again that afternoon, and then watch it again like a date like on Saturday, and then we returned it. But just having a snow day and watching Terminator 2 was just an incredible experience. I'll like always remember that. It's because like the snow day definitely like made that even more awesome. Because like the plan was initially to rent it on a Friday afternoon, watch it after school into the weekend, but then I basically got to watch it all day Friday because we didn't have school, which was awesome. This was also the first DVD I purchased. Like it was like one of the key reasons I wanted to get a DVD player, because right when I got a DVD player, I bought a DVD player. I want to say in the year 2000, and I picked up the Terminator 2. I think it was the Ultimate Edition DVD. They have they have several different editions of the DVD. Like there's like the Extreme Edition as well. But the Ultimate Edition has a ton of extra features. Has both the not both. Has the theatrical cut, the director's cut, and then the extended director's cut. The extended director's cut's actually an Easter egg that you actually have to go in on a DVD remote and type in the date of Judgment Day on that keypad. And that what happens then is the T800's eyes will light up. Both of them will light up actually. And then when it does that, you've unlocked the extended director's cut. The extended director's cut has like an additional epilogue where it's in the future. I don't know if it's in 2029 or just further into or before that, but it shows that Judgment Day has been prevented, and now John Connor is like a congressman or a senator or something like that, and Sarah Connor is recording like a voice recording on like a tape recorder, like in like a park in Washington D.C., kind of saying that like John Connor is still like a leader, but now he's fighting battles on the floor of the Senate instead of like like in the future war of after Judgment Day. It doesn't really do a lot because it basically I think like I said, James Cameron's director's cuts are basically his theatrical cuts. It's a cool extra scene, but it doesn't really add anything. And then I think they maybe cut it because I think if they ever wanted to do sequels, it would kind of nullify any kind of sequels. Even though the sequels for Terminator 2 range from being okay to just being really bad. So like I think Terminator 3 is okay. It's entertaining. Terminator Salvation I thought was entertaining, but there's a lot of weird plot holes. I didn't see Genesis. And Dark Fate I thought was entertaining. It's probably the best they could do with like kind of where they got themselves into with the other films. And then not a film, but the Sarah Connor Chronicles is also quite good. They only did 2 seasons, but it's Lena Headey playing Sarah Connor, Summer Glau's in there. I forget exactly who else. Like Shirley Manson is like one of the like a T1000 or something, like another variation of the T1000 is pretty cool. So we're gonna then just jump into kind of like basically like a plot recap of the movie. I just watched it like at my friends recently. Like I said, it's an amazing film. You start off with just awesome shots of the future war. One of my favorite things to do whenever I watch this movie, every single time, it doesn't matter if it's in the theater or on DVD or streaming, there's a scene in the very beginning where you see the human resistance is fighting the machines. One of the T-800s is walking like sideways, and it turns to the camera and shoots at the camera with like guns. And I always will stand up during that scene and be like that, like, oh, I'm getting shot because they're shooting right at the screen. I've done it since I think I've done it every time I've seen it except for maybe the first time because I like didn't know that was going to happen. But future wars going on. Skynet is just basically like laying waste to like the human resistance. It shows John Connor, Sarah Connor's doing this kind of like voiceover narration, kind of explaining, like recapping. One thing really great about James Cameron's sequels, or even the sequels of stuff that wasn't his initially, like Aliens, is his sequels are always feel very self-contained, where you don't need to see what the thing was before that. Like I think I probably saw Aliens before I saw the first Alien. I saw Terminator before I saw Terminator 2 because I remember one of my friends in elementary school when this came out. They were like, "Oh, we've seen Terminator 2. It's going to be on like coming out on like VHS soon. You should. Like, we have Terminator on VHS. You should watch this to get caught up with what's going to happen in Terminator 2." So I watched that. Um, Terminator 2, though, it does a good enough job of recapping the events of the first movie throughout the movie, so you don't really need to see it, but it does help to see the first one. The first movie is also just amazing, too. But she recaps that the Terminator was sent back in time to kill her. It failed, and now another Terminator has been sent back in time to kill John Connor. And then another one has been a protector. Sorry, excuse me. So then it cuts to current day. Terminator shows up, or Schwarzenegger shows up, goes to a basically like a country bar, gets his clothes, boots, motorcycle. T-1000 shows up, gets his clothing. Sorry, excuse me. And one thing I really like about this movie, and I think James Cameron maybe mentions this in the Extreme Edition DVD, because the Ultimate Edition has an audio commentary, but it's an audio commentary that's like stitched together from interviews and like other featurettes and stuff like that. So it's not a sit down commentary. When they did the Ultimate Edition DVD a few years later, it was actually James Cameron and William Wisher actually did a sit down commentary while watching the movie. And I think James Cameron, I could be misremembering this, but I think in that commentary, he mentioned if you didn't see the trailers, didn't see anything, basically avoided spoilers, but you don't know who's good or who's bad as far between the two Terminators until you get to the mall, like 20 minutes into the movie or however long into the movie it is. Because you see they both approach John Connor, they both draw guns, and then you don't really know who's good or bad. Like it does a lot of it flips Schwarzenegger's role, because if you're just going in with the context of the first movie, he's the villain in that movie, but in this movie he's one of the good guys. But you don't know that until, like, if you avoid spoilers, you don't know that until they get to the mall and you start seeing the Terminator start protecting John Connor. Anyhow, back to the film. We then cut to John Connor's foster parents, Jeanette Goldstein. I forget who plays Todd, but Jeanette Goldstein, in a lot of James Cameron stuff, plays Vasquez in Aliens, and as well as the Irish mother in Titanic. But those are the foster parents, and Danny Cookley is also in this movie. I think that's how his name is pronounced. I remember seeing Salute Your Shorts before I saw this. So he plays, I think it was Budnick on Salute Your Shorts. Could be misremembering the name, but yeah, Salute Your Shorts, Nickelodeon show. He plays John Connor's friend in this movie, and they're going around like hacking ATMs, getting money. They go. T-1000 shows up at John Connor's house to get information as well. But so now you have both the T-1000 and the Terminator are looking for John Connor. They go to an arcade, basically like they're both at the mall. They eventually figure like T-1000 and the Terminator then corner John in a hallway. A shootout happens, and that's when you realize, or if you like I said didn't watch spoilers or see the trailer or anything like that, you then realize, okay, Schwarzenegger's the hero here, or one of the heroes, and this T-1000 is the villain. We then move into one of the greatest movie chases I think in film history. You have John Connor on his dirt bike going through. I think it's supposed to be up. It's like North Hollywood, I think, or it's north. It's in like the Northridge area, I think, and that's where that is set. But you have the T-1000 chasing him down in a semi truck cab, and John Connor goes into a drainage ditch. And I know in the comic book there's an internal monologue of John Connor goes in there. He's like, all right, cool. Like no truck's going to be able to get into here. Like I should be safe. But then the T-1000 drives the truck into the drainage canal and starts chasing down John Connor. The Terminator is chasing after them, going through the upper part of the drainage canal as well. This whole sequence is just beautifully sequenced. Like you cut from shots of John Connor, you cut to shots of the Terminator, you cut to shots of the T-1000, and then eventually toward the end of the sequence, all of those characters kind of converge. It's a beautiful, amazing chase. I think in one of the commentaries, once Terminator jumps his motorcycle into the drainage canal, I think James Cameron was saying that was the very first time that like suspension wires were digitally removed from a shot. So they were probably like green wires or something like that, and they like like lowered the motorcycle into drainage canal, and then post production got rid of those wires. But Terminator rescues John Connor. The semi truck explodes, and then this is one thing I really like about James Cameron is if you were to just cut to the truck exploding, it would make sense. It would be like, okay, that truck hit that wall pretty hard, or like underpass pretty hard. It's very logical that that would just cause an explosion. Like, but he goes out of his way to show like a gas canister leaking with like a sparking wire hanging next to it and it ignites it. Just it, I think it definitely like just shows that like he just wants to get his point across and like will basically be like, okay, like logically this truck would explode, but let me actually show you what would cause the explosion. So then they leave. T-1000 walks out of the fire. One of the coolest like shots because you see him walking out in liquid metal form, and then he goes back to his Robert Patrick form. All the acting in this movie is like top notch. From like Schwarzenegger's great, Linda Hamilton's amazing, Robert Patrick's great. Edward Furlong for his first film is like really good. The supporting cast: Joe Morton as Miles Dyson. Even Dean Norris is in this as from Breaking Bad as one of the SWAT team members later in the film. But the T-800, Schwarzenegger explains to John Connor what's going on, and then they're trying to get out of the city. He's like, hey, we should go back to... John Connor's like, hey, I want to go home and grab some stuff. And Schwarzenegger's like, no, we can't do that. The T-1000 would definitely try to pick you back up at your house. And then cuts to a scene of... They're like, hey, these people are kind of jerks, but I got to call them. It's kind of funny. He's like, hey, you got a quarter? And like, because they're at an arcade. You think he would have a quarter. Maybe he spent all his quarters. I don't know. But they call, and they basically are like, the dog is barking, and John is like, whoa, she's being really nice. This is weird. Dog's barking in the background, and then Schwarzenegger grabs the phone, and one of the things that T-800 can do, it can imitate voices, which is shown in the first film as well. I think like it imitates like Sarah Connor's mother's voice or something like that. But they're like, hey, what's the name of the dog? He's like, oh, my dog's name is Max. And he's like, hey, Wolfie, like, is Wolfie's barking? You see all right there? She's like, yeah, Wolfie's good. Schwarzenegger goes up. He's like, oh yeah, they're dead. Like they obviously don't know the name of the dog, so it's obviously not them. So they then decide to go to the mental hospital to break Sarah out. And the mental hospital sequence is just so good. It's so intense. It might be like one of my favorite sequences of the film because you have so much going on. You have the T-800 and John Connor showing up. You have the T-1000 there. You have Sarah trying to escape on her own. And like the whole thing with the security guard like licking your like cheek is just creepy as hell. But you have her escaping, holding Silverman hostage with like the liquid rooter like syringe to his neck. You then have so basically she's going up against not only like the doctors and the guards, and then she eventually evades them. And the music, like let's talk about the music for just a moment. Brad Feidel's score is like just perfect. It's like I remember like I picked it up on cassette like in like 1992 or something like that, and I just love this film score. It's so good. And like the scene, I think it's called "Sarah on the Run" is the name of the track on the soundtrack. That's the theme that's playing out through like when she's escaping the hospital. So she's being chased by the guard. She's being chased by Silverman eventually. She gets to the elevator. Schwarzenegger pops out and she's like turns back around and like in slow motion is just screaming like no no. The guards catch up to her again, and then Schwarzenegger rolls up and they get into a huge battle. You then see the T-1000 like walk through like a jail door basically, and his gun gets stuck. There's these little moments where like James Cameron does a little. It's very subtle, but I like when the T-1000 walks through. But yeah, the gun is not part of you, so it's gonna get stuck on the door. They fight with the T-1000 for a little bit. They go in the elevator. They eventually escape. And then they get chased down by the T-1000. He eventually gets on top of the police car and he gets blasted off and what have you. They then stay the night in like an old like I imagine like I think it's like an abandoned gas station or at the very least it's closed. But they go there. They then go further south. They end up at I think it's Enrique's compound where he's got all of Sarah Connor's like weapons stashed for however long they've been stashed there. They grab up weapons. They fix up a truck. Sarah Connor then has the nuclear nightmares, I think they call it, but she walks up to this park and it's nice. And it's very creepy because you see kind of like a younger version of her there with John, and the bomb goes off, annihilates the entire playground, and she's like holding on to the chain link fence like this, and you just see like all of her skin get blasted off. It's really cool looking, but it's also terrifying. And then that's where she gets the idea of I'm gonna kill Miles Dyson because he's the one that is working on these chips and the one that basically is in is the man most responsible for getting Skynet to where it's at. So she goes off. The Terminator and John Connor chase after her, and it's really cool because like in these moments leading up to this, the Terminator is actually learning, becoming more human, if you want to say that, and Sarah Connor at the same time is becoming more robot-like. Like when she's doing her attack on Miles Dyson, she is like just very cold, like calculating, like unrelenting. It's a really cool sequence because basically at that point, Sarah becomes a Terminator, like at least temporarily. But she goes there, blasts on him. Dyson gets shot in like the shoulder. The Terminator and John show up. They explain what's going on. Like Schwarzenegger like rips, like cuts his arm all open and pulls the skin off of it to show that he's got the arm. He's like Dyson has the chip and the arm from the first movie in the vault at Cyber 9. But they go through a plan of destroying all the work that Dyson has worked on, like all the hard drives, all the files, all the stuff in the lab. So they go there. They then do the attack on Cyber 9. They kind of get caught because the security guard is like, "Hey, like these are the people from the mall. This is the guy. It's the lady." Like, and then this like a SWAT team arrives. They eventually blow up Cyber 9, but at the cost of losing Miles Dyson. And because he gets shot, he's like I don't know how much longer I can hold this, and detonates the thing. T-1000 shows up there. There's another awesome chase between like the SWAT van and the helicopter. And the great thing about the action in this movie is I don't think James Cameron in this movie at least does action for the sake of having action. It feels like all the action sequences that are in there are, necessary for the movie, but they're all earned as well. So like it doesn't feel like he's ever just doing action for the sake of action. But an awesome chase between like a T-1000 and a police helicopter. Um, Sarah, John, and the Terminator are in the SWAT van. Eventually, like those things all crash, and T-1000 gets into a liquid nitrogen tanker truck, and the heroes get in like a small little diggy kind of truck that can only go like 65 miles an hour. But they get chased further down. They eventually end up at the steel mill where the steel tanker truck gets ripped open, or the liquid nitrogen truck gets ripped open, and the T-1000 gets frozen. You get the iconic "Hasta la vista, baby" moment where the T-1000 gets shot and shatters into like 1,000 pieces. But then it's like in a steel mill, so it's hot, so the liquid metal all basically like melts and reforms. And all the action is so close together. Like there's like no breathing room for like any of this stuff. So like when they're on the highway and like the T-1000 in the tanker truck, it's literally just maybe like a couple feet, 100 feet away from where they are. When the T-1000 reforms in the steel mill, they're maybe like 30 or 40 feet away at the most. So it's all like very much like this relentless pursuit of the T-1000, and it's awesome. Um, but T-1000 gets basically like regenerates. They eventually split up. So like Sarah and John go off, and the Terminator goes off on his own. Terminator basically gets beaten down pretty badly by the T-1000 to the point where it looks like the T-800 has been killed because the T-1000 like spears him through like one of the main power processors, and the T-800 for all intents and purposes in the scene is dead at this point. Sarah is like was trying to shoot the T-1000 with a shotgun. She gets stabbed in the shoulder with like one of the T-1000's like blade like knives, and is about to get stabbed in the face as well. There's a cool moment where she drops a shotgun shell. Like James Cameron's attention to detail is like perfect because he drops a shotgun shell, like fumbles it, and it falls like out of her hand and like probably like lands on the grate, probably goes through it. And then when she's using the shotgun later in the movie, Like if she had one more round, one more shot, she probably would have been able to kill the T-1000. But since she had fumbled that shot earlier, it ran out. And like it's just these little attention to detail things that James Cameron is like really great at. But you hear like John Connor is kind of hiding it like temporarily, but Sarah's calling out for him. She's like, "Hey, John, help me, help me!" She gets up there, and you see an injured Sarah Connor like hanging around like on like a metal hook or something like that. She's like holding it like that for support, and she's like, "Oh, help me, John, help me!" And then you see another Sarah show up behind him, and she's like, "Get out of the way!" And he moves, and she shoots, and it's the T-1000 disguised as Sarah Connor. So then the real Sarah Connor, and this is probably the first movie I saw this in. And whenever I would play arcade games that had a shotgun where you would reload it by pumping it, I would do the Sarah Connor shotgun reloading method, which I don't even know if this is the first movie where this happened. And it doesn't seem like a very effective way to do it because you have the shotgun in your hand like this, and you basically move it up and down, so you cock it that way, but then you still have to hold it like that. So you're like ka-chunk, boom, ka-chunk, boom, instead of just being like that. It seems very ineffective, or inefficient, I should say, but it looks awesome on film. Like when Sarah Connor is just doing that with the shotgun, it's just Linda Hamilton is just like, and then like not quite enough shots to drop the T-1000. Literally like one shot short. It's the one she dropped earlier. But then you see the T-800 alternate power comes on. He grabs a grenade launcher he was trying to grab, and then you see him coming up on a conveyor belt thing, and Sarah and John get out of the way. T-800 shoots the T-1000 with a grenade round, basically goes in, explodes inside of him. Awesome visuals in this scene. And then you see the T-1000 kind of just like teeter out over the edge, falls into the liquid metal, and that's where it dies, basically. But it's really cool because like it starts reverting to other versions of itself temporarily that it's taken on. So you see it briefly show up as John Connor's foster mother. You see it show up as the motorcycle cop. You see it show up as the other police officer who is like he disguised himself temporarily as in the mental hospital. And then obviously the Robert Patrick version. So they're like, oh, we're done. They're like, so they throw the metal arm in there, they throw the chip in there. And then Schwarzenegger's like, well, there's one chip left. And he's like, so it's an emotional scene because like John doesn't want the Terminator to basically like kill itself, but basically like it's the only way because like if that chip exists, there's still the possibility that Judgment Day could happen. So Sarah lowers the T-800 into the steel, melts up, but at the end, you get the awesome thumbs up going into the lava. And then it cuts to a scene of a black kind of like highway going forward, and Sarah's like, the future's coming at us, and for the first time, like, I don't know what the future holds. And then the line of like, if a machine called the Terminator can learn the value of human life, maybe we can too. Cut the credits. Just an amazing, like, perfect film. Like, I put it up there as far as like what movies I consider to be perfect. Like Raiders of the Lost Ark is one of the movies I consider to be perfect. Terminator 2 is one of the other ones, and I would have to think really hard about what another just absolutely perfect movie would be. But Terminator 2, perfect. One of my friends describes Terminator 2 as one of the finest movies ever made by humans, and it's like, yeah, it's true, 100%. So that's gonna do it for this part of the video. We're going to now switch over to a kind of like a slideshow of shots from the film and then shots from the in LA when I was on out in LA last year and the year before. So we'll be right back with that. We'll be switching over to that in just a second. Hello and welcome back to the second part of this Terminator 2 video. We're going to be looking at some Terminator 2 shooting locations. I have some screenshots from the film, and then again shots of the real world locations as they appeared last year and in the year before. So I will say the movie screenshots do have the black bars, so those like are there from the like one of the DVDs that I like captured it off of. It may have been a Blu-ray, but let's go ahead and get that started up here. So first shot we have here is John Connor after coming down the kind of ramp in the drainage canal. So this is obviously from the film. He basically escapes the T-1000, or temporarily, and then tries to take refuge in this drainage ditch because, like I said in the comic book, he thinks that no truck is going to be able to get down into the drainage canal, and like yeah, no truck normally would be able to, but also nobody is like as determined as the T-1000 is to get after him. So here's John Connor driving down the ramp, and the next shot is the real world location of that. So as you see, this is he kind of takes the ramp down to like the left of the left side of the screen there. So this is the kind of intersection. I think it's like Hayhurst and Plummer. So this is kind of northern, like North LA, like pretty far north actually, like definitely north of Hollywood. But this is the location as it was like in May of 2022 when I was out there. Next shot is from the film, and this is just kind of like once John is in the drainage canal, you can see it says Hayhurst Avenue on the top there. Next shot is another real world location, or this is from the movie. This is right when the truck is about to dive into the canal, and there's like the sign for Plumber right there. So it's Plumber and Hayhurst is where you can find this location. They've put up, you probably see it, they have put up some concrete barriers there. There was a really cool video I saw with Robert Patrick, and I forget who the other person interviewing him was, but they were doing like basically like a tour. It was like an interview, but they were also going to Terminator 2 shooting locations, and this is one of the locations that they visited. It was a really cool video. If you could, I'll try to find the link, try to find it, and I'll link it in the description. But this is right before the truck goes in. Next shot. This is another shot of the same location, and it says Hayhurst Avenue, kind of where it does on the in the film, kind of like right above the kind of bridge there. Next shot here. This is the Terminator going through the fence here, and this is kind of like right after the semi has jumped in. So I think the next location is this kind of like entryway, but the 2022 version of that. So you can see the entryway is to the left there, and there's those concrete barriers that I mentioned before. I don't think those were there when they made the movie, and even I think Robert Patrick in that interview I mentioned mentioned that those were not there. Maybe they put them there just in case anybody actually tried to jump a semi into the drainage canal. But the fence to the left there is the one that Schwarzenegger would have driven through. Next shot. So this is another, basically the reverse shot of what we just saw. But this is him basically coming down, and you can see the kind of bricks in the bridge there where the semi has jumped in. Next shot. That would have been the fence that he would have come through. That's from 2022. So that, like Schwarzenegger, that's one of the ones where he would have probably like done the whole thing where he did the swing shotgun and blast the fence open. That's one of the cool things about just reloading the shotgun like that. I think that would probably break your wrist if you were to do it in real life. But yeah, that's the fence. Here is kind of like there's this dirt path that I was able to actually walk down. Like I said, like that fence that Schwarzenegger went through was actually unlocked when I was there, so I just kind of walked down this whole way. But I got to the end of this path, and the fence on that other side was completely locked. So I decided just to walk back and not try to get in trouble or anything like that. Because there are signs where it's like city of like Department of LA, like water, like don't like no access, stuff like that. Like some kind of like definitely didn't want to get in trouble for just walking down there. But yeah, so that's Terminator is driving above that. He's like shooting down it with a shotgun. Next shot here. This is that same path, but obviously, how long ago was that? It's like 91, 2001, 11, 20, like 31 years later or something like that. So yeah, same path that Schwarzenegger is driving down in the previous shot. Next up, we have Elysian Park. So this is a park located in kind of near downtown LA. It's right above, or I don't know, I think it's south of Dodger Stadium, or it might be a little bit north. I don't like depending on how the map looks. But once we get to the real world locations, you can actually see part of Dodger Stadium from above this. So this is in Sarah's dream. This whole playground was actually built specifically for the film. So when I was at this is the location I went to last year because I was in near the downtown area and wanted to go to this park. This whole like playground like doesn't exist. There's a park up there, but it's like this whole fenced area, the sand, the kind of sandbox. All the equipment was like just brought in for the film and then taken out. But yeah, this is right before the kind of bomb gets dropped in LA, and that's as the bomb is going off. Next two shots, I think those are our final shots coming up, are of Elysian Park as it looks now. So over to the left of the screen, it's kind of hard to see, but that is Dodger Stadium is to the like middle left edge is where Dodger Stadium is, and then you obviously see the iconic LA skyline there. Next shot, another shot of the same area. Dodger Stadium is a little bit more visible in this shot. But yeah, this would be Elysian Park. This would be where that playground would be if it was a real playground, I guess. But just some really cool shooting locations. If I ever go back out to LA, there's some other locations I want to visit, like the house that they use for the exteriors for John Connor's houses, like in LA. And I don't really know. I think like the Corral, like the country bar, I think that's been torn down, or it's something completely different now. If it is, the Sixth Street Bridge I think has been completely redone, and that's where the T-1000 makes his first appearance. Is under, I think it's like the Sixth Street Bridge in Santa Fe, or Santa Fe. Like, don't know if it's a drive or a street, but that runs right kind of near where the Sixth Street Bridge is in LA. I would have to go and see what other locations this movie was filmed at, because like one thing I really like doing is just going to these cities, going on like just like walking around and finding these locations. But that's gonna do it for this video. Again, Terminator 2, one of my favorite films of all time. Was really excited to do this video for this series. We got one more video in the 1991 cycle, and then we'll be into 1992, 1993, and so on, and then we'll cycle all the way back to 1990. But this is one of the episodes I was really, when I decided after getting partway through the 1998 series that I wanted to tackle the rest of the decade, this is kind of one of the reasons why. Like films like this, just an amazing, amazing film. If you haven't seen it, I would highly recommend it. Like, it's on Paramount Plus right now, but you know, like I said, I want to say I picked up this 4K Blu-ray of it like somewhat recently for like, I think I got it for like $15 or something. Totally worth it as well. But that's gonna do it for now. So remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Thanks again for watching. Take care and have a good one.